All right, Steve, let me get this picture.
Okay.
Smile.
That's a picture no matter which direction I go.
That's it. All right, cool. Thank you. Good luck. Nice seeing you.
Hi everyone. So Steve is here. So thank you so much for coming down. If anyone is just joining us, my name is Greg Zolan, the president of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to hand things off to Shaughnessy Naughton, who will MC tonight, just like with Brian. And if you have questions, you can write them on the white cards, and we'll try to get to those as well. So
Great.
jump right into it.
Okay. Well, thank you all for staying. We're really glad to have Steve here. Just as a reminder, we live in a really unique district where we have about 50-50 Democrat-Republican registration. And this is, unfortunately, it's unusual across the country. It's certainly unusual in Pennsylvania. But it gives us a unique opportunity to really demand more from our representatives. And I thank you for coming out, and I thank Steve and your team for making you available for us to ask questions and find out a little bit more. So we ask that the audience remain respectful at all times, and it has so far tonight, so we feel good about that. And so go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we have some questions from the chamber, and then some Q&A.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shaughnessy. Thank you for the chamber and all of you for coming out tonight. I'm sorry there's this beam right here, so you can't see me, Steve. You're kind of blocked off there. I am Steve Santarsiero, and I apologize that it took me a little longer to get here today, but as I hope you heard, we had session in Harrisburg and did not get off the floor of the House until about 20 after 6, and it's all good. But I was given the opportunity today to give my farewell address. It's a tradition in the Pennsylvania State House, at least, that when a member is retiring, which I'm doing because I'm not running for both my State House position and the congressional seat, that we get an opportunity to give a farewell address. So I did that, and I got my ceremonial gavel, but I didn't bring that in today. I decided I'd keep that in the car. But it was a kind of bittersweet moment to reflect on the last 8 years, which have been tumultuous, to say the least. And one of the messages that I tried to convey to my colleagues was that we are in fact living in interesting times. It seems that every year there are new challenges facing us as a country, and this election cycle is one for the record books, I think. I know that I have never seen anything like this in my lifetime. And I think that if you look at all of American history, it's certainly fair to say that just the tenor of this campaign at the top of the ticket is really something that is unprecedented in modern American history, at least, if not all of American history. And I point that out at the outset because, as I said today on the floor of the House, no matter what happens on November 8th, on November 9th, the sun is going to rise. And in January, a new legislature in Harrisburg and all the states across the country and in Washington is going to take office. And on January 20th, a new president is going to be sworn in. And the challenges that we face as a people and the problems that we have will be there. And we all as Americans need to come together to be able to find solutions to those challenges. And no matter how rancorous this election season gets, and no matter how polarized we seem to be at times, the need to do that is not going to diminish. If anything, it's going to get greater. And so I'm standing before you tonight as a candidate for Congress because I truly do believe that still matters a great deal who we send representing the 8th District down to Washington, D.C. It matters that we have someone who is fighting for reasonable gun safety legislation. It matters that we have someone who's fighting for investments in education, both early childhood education and also access to higher education, but also job training, both for students who want to go right into the workforce and people who are in the workforce already who might be displaced because of changes in technology or globalization. It matters that we have someone who's fighting for an issue that I know Shaughnessy and I are in very much agreement on, which is global climate change. That we're doing something substantive and serious about rolling back our carbon emissions and reversing this process. I believe, I've said many times before, that when the history of our era is written, this is going to be identified by historians as the most important issue. You think about the implications of what will happen if we're not serious and we don't get this done. It makes some of the challenges and some of the conflicts that we see in the world today pale by comparison. We've got to do something. It matters that we have people who are standing up for rights for every person in our country. Every person. It is not acceptable, either here in Pennsylvania or anywhere else in the country, that if you're a member of the LGBT community, you don't have the same rights and you can be discriminated against legally as straight people. That's absolutely wrong. My sister is gay, and I can tell you, back when she and her wife got married in 2008, I was running for the State House for the first time. And I left my campaign in October, and Rose Winchell, who's in the back there, my chief of staff currently, she was running my campaign that year, and she'll tell you how nervous she was because I said, okay, we're suspending the campaign for 3 or 4 days. I'm going to Austin, Texas for my sister's wedding. She and her wife had gone to California, where they were at that time able to legally marry, and then came back to Austin, where they live, to have a ceremonial wedding. And we as a family went there for that. And I wasn't going to miss that. And I saw through her eyes and her experience how hard it was to get those rights that everyone else just takes for granted. It matters that we have someone who is fighting for a sane foreign policy that focuses on multilateral negotiation and diplomacy. Certainly with the understanding that, you know, if we need to use force, we have the ability to do that, but that we lead with trying to resolve problems without that. So all these things matter. And I know for a chamber, it matters to you too, that we have someone who understands that small business truly is the engine of our economy and the engine of employment. And how it's important that we do everything we can to foster small business growth, to foster growth on our main streets throughout this country, here in the 8th District, and make sure we're doing everything to grow the economy. You all probably